know if you saw his video announcement, but it was amazing.
It was.
Clay Aiken announces candidacy for Congress in North Carolina's 2nd District. He joins us now. Good morning, Clay.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I loved your whole statement. It was so awesome.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Well, talk to us about, because obviously, we were saying, Sean Duffy, the reality star, is in Congress. Because people go, a celebrity. But, I mean, you have this amazing background where you were a special ed teacher for students with autism. You've had a lot of life experience beyond how people know you from American Idol, right?
Well, yeah, doing the singing thing and the entertainment thing was always actually just a plan B for me, to be completely honest. I had planned on being a teacher and maybe being an assistant principal at some point if I was ambitious.
Yeah, right.
And I ended up taking a different path, obviously. And I took that path, I think, in large part because of the people here in North Carolina who were so supportive of me throughout that process in the early years. And now I have this microphone and platform, and I've wanted to try to use it over the past 10 years to speak up for folks who I thought were not being heard, kids with disabilities, kids in other countries, and I feel it just as important, if not more important, to speak up for the people who put me in this place in the first place.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember the National Inclusion Project you founded. You've done a lot of activism, like I said before. You don't sort of, this isn't as random as some people might think, right?
Well, I said early on, I kind of believe early on that me being an entertainer was a really lucky thing to happen to me. I mean, I was really fortunate. I'm certainly not the type of person I think most people would expect to be a singer, to be a famous singer at least. And I got there, through grace and the generosity of other people. And I don't think you can get to a place where you have that sort of platform and not. You have two choices. You can use it for yourself, or you can use it to better the world. And my mama told me to better the world. And so I tried right after Idol to start that organization and have been successful with it because I realized that I'm not alone here on this planet.
Yeah.
Well, and you had worked with UNICEF, traveling to war zones, Afghanistan, Somalia, and all that previously, right?
Right. Well, I've done that I did that after Idol also. So, speaking up for kids with disabilities was important to me because I had that background, and UNICEF wanted me to help them speak up for kids with who were not being heard in developing nations. And I had some real eye-opening experiences and opportunities there to see what the needs of these children were, and to come back and to speak with government officials about it in those countries, and to speak to people here in the U.S. about those needs also.
Clay, my 91-year-old Republican mom lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. I actually have a lot of family there. It's a really important state. It's purple pretty much. I mean, it's interesting. A lot of what you say in your statement is about when you announced is about solving problems that maybe not necessarily one party or the other is better at.
Listen, nobody is completely 100% on the far end of either side of the spectrum. I can promise you, if I sit down with your mother, even though she's a Republican, she and I will find plenty of things to agree on.
She would love you, and you would love her homemade vegetable soup. I'm just saying. I'll see if I can set that up.
Well, you know what? I went to school in Charlotte. I know how to get there. So you tell her I maybe buy. But nobody lives on either end completely of the political spectrum. We all live somewhere in the middle. We all moderate somewhere. And the problem, I think, is, and what ticks me off, and I imagine you off, and I think everybody in the country off, is now we've got people who sit on the very edges of both sides of the political spectrum, and they're the ones who are representing us in Congress, and they're not talking to each other because they're going to do it their way, and no other way is allowed. And that's not the way I remember growing up and seeing government work. People in Washington have had ideological disagreements since the dawn of time, but even in the most contentious periods in my lifetime, when in the 90s, when you had Gingrich versus Clinton over there, they figured out ways to come together and work together and find solutions that met in the middle ground. And in the last 3 years, really, we haven't seen much of that. We've seen a lot of obstructionism. We've seen a lot of finger pointing and blaming. And it seems to me, that even when the other side has a relatively good idea, Nobody wants to admit it because really the only thing we're here to do is save our own butts and
it's
save
all,
our own jobs.
Right. It's all gotcha.
What we should be doing. We shouldn't be saving politicians' jobs. We should be saving people's jobs, Americans' jobs.
Yeah, I mean, it's all gotcha these days. I'm actually sitting here talking with my dad's picture looming over me. He ran with Barry Goldwater in '64, but that's exactly the point I make all the time. Is they actually used to have friends on both sides of the aisle. They actually used to work together to some degree, to get stuff done. And interesting, you're running against Representative Renee Elmers, who I think is a perfect example. She just has taken so many orders from party leadership, right? She voted 10 times for spending cuts that hurt the military and military families, cuts that she admitted would hurt your district. Obviously, Fort Bragg is there. She voted 21 times for the government shutdown in 2013 at the direction of party leaders, even though she predicted it would be a disaster for the economy. I mean, this is what's happened with the Republican caucus, right?
When you know that something is when you say that something will be economically disastrous, and then you vote for it anyway, that makes, I want to believe that most people go to D.C. to do good, even if I don't believe with them ideologically. And I think you have to look at motivation a lot of times. Even when I don't agree with someone, if their motivation is for good, and if we all want the same thing, we just disagree about how to get there, we should be able to sit down, if we all have the same goal, should be able to sit down and figure out how we can get there together.